Long ago, on the shores of a distant land, stood the great city of Troy, tall, proud, and protected by the walls no enemy could break. Outside its gates, a massive army of Greece had been camped for years, waiting for one single thing to finally defeat Troy. This is the story of the Iliad. This whole war began with an apple. A golden apple, marked for the fairest, was tossed into a wedding feast of the gods by Eris, the goddess of discord, just to cause trouble. Three goddesses, Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, all believed the apple belonged to them. A Trojan prince named Paris was asked to judge. Each goddess offered him a bribe. Aphrodite promised him the most beautiful woman in the world. Paris chose her. That woman was Helen, already married to a Greek king named Menelaus. When Paris took Helen back to Troy with him, Menelaus was furious and called on all of the Greeks to help him to get her back. Thousands of ships sailed for Troy, and so began a war that would last 10 long years. For 9 long years, the Greeks and Trojans fought outside the city walls. Neither side could break through. The greatest warrior on the Greek side was Achilles, nearly unbeatable in battle, fast, strong, and fierce. On the Trojan side stood Hector, Troy's greatest defender, brave, honorable, and deeply loved by his people. Both men were heroes, but their fates were about to collide. But trouble was brewing within the Greek camp itself. Agamemnon, the Greek commander, and Achilles got into a bitter argument over a prisoner of war. Agamemnon had been forced to give up his own prize, so he decided to take Achilles instead, a woman named Briseis. Achilles was furious. Achilles felt disrespected and humiliated in front of the entire army, so he made a decision that would change everything. Achilles said, "If my honor means nothing to you, then I will not fight for you at all." Achilles refused to fight. Without Achilles, the Greeks began losing ground. The Trojans, led by Hector, pushed harder than ever before. Even the gods took sides. Some favored the Greeks, others the Trojans, and their meddling only made the war more chaotic. Meanwhile, Achilles' closest friend, Patroclus, watched the suffering with growing concern. He begged Achilles to help, or at least to let him help. Achilles finally agreed to a compromise. He would not fight himself, but he let Patroclus to wear his armor and lead the Myrmidons into battle, pretending to be Achilles to scare the Trojans. The plan worked at first. Seeing what looked like Achilles charging toward them, the Trojans panicked and retreated. Patroclus fought bravely, pushing the Trojans all the way back to the city gates. But Achilles had warned him, "Drive the Trojans back, then stop. Don't get too close to the city." Patroclus, caught up in the thrill of victory, forgot the warning. And that was when Hector found him. Hector and Patroclus fought fiercely in front of the city walls, but Hector was a skilled and powerful warrior. In the end, Hector defeated Patroclus. As he fell, the borrowed armor and the helmet came loose, and Hector realized who he had truly been fighting all along, not Achilles, but his dearest friend. Hector took Achilles' armor as a prize of war without knowing the storm he had just unleashed. When the word reached Achilles that his closest friend Patroclus was dead, killed by Hector, his grief turned instantly into rage. Achilles swore he would have revenge. Achilles' mother, the sea goddess Thetis, brought him a magnificent new armor forged by the gods themselves. Achilles returned to the battlefield like a force of nature. The Trojans, terrified, scattered before him. He fought with unstoppable fury, driving the Trojan army back behind their own walls in fear. Only one man remained outside the walls, Hector. His family begged him to come inside to hide to save himself, but Hector knew he could not hide behind the walls forever. He decided to face Achilles, man to man. The two greatest warriors of the war stood face to face at last. For a moment, Hector's courage wavered, and he ran. Achilles chased him around the walls of Troy until Hector finally stopped and turned to face his fate. Hector raised his spear one last time, and it was Achilles who struck the final blow. Hector, Troy's greatest defender, had fallen. In his grief and anger, Achilles dragged Hector's body behind his chariot, refusing to return it to his family for burial, a cruelty that shocked even the gods. Hector's father, King Priam, could not bear it any longer. Alone, at the great risk to his own life, he snuck into the Greek camp to beg for his son's body back. He knelt before Achilles, the very man who had killed his son, and asked him to remember his own father waiting at home, something Achilles finally broke. He saw not an enemy, but a grieving father, just like his own. Achilles agreed to return Hector's body, and even allowed the time for Trojans to properly mourn and bury their fallen hero. And so the story of the Iliad ends. Not with the fall of the Troy itself, but with the two enemies finding a shared moment of humanity amid the endless war. And that's the story of Iliad, a tale of pride, rage, royalty, and the terrible cost of war, even for the greatest heroes. If you enjoyed the story, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories. Thank you.